Welcome to Will's Personal Development Podcast, where we bring you data and science-backed answers and advice from billionaires.
Hey, what's up everyone? It's Will, and welcome to the show. So today we're going to be answering the question of, if I just want to be a smarter person in general, what kind of books should I read? Now, this is a question that is highly requested, and it's something that a lot of people ask. Now, first off, again, this is not a place of judgment here, but I just want to make sure that you are doing it for reasons that you actually want to do it for. So first things first, you have to check as to why you want to be a smarter person in general. Now, there are a lot of reasons that may not be exactly what you actually want. For example, some people want to be a smarter person so that they appear smarter to women and therefore improve their dating prospects. Now, that's not exactly always a bad thing, but sometimes if you go about the wrong way where you're trying to show it off too much, you could come off arrogant or egotistical, which end up hurting your chances anyway. So make sure you do it and present it in the right way. If you're the kind of person who's, visibly trying to show off every moment he's smart, it kind of backfires, because intelligent people usually, they don't really have to do that, and you can come off try hard. And another similar reason that people do it is because they want to prove that they are better or just higher status than other men. Not necessarily for dating reasons, but just in terms of hierarchy reasons, or just to show that they're better. And you might want to dive deep into yourself and ask yourself, is this really something that I really care for? I think a lot of entrepreneurs and successful people, not all of them, but some of them, they chase this, and it's a never-ending cycle. And sometimes when they dive deep into themselves, they figure out that, okay, being better than all these people is not actually making me any happier, which is what I thought I wanted, or it's not actually making me any smarter, or it's not really benefiting my life, and it's just something that I do because in my childhood my parents never validated me or approved what I did, so it was some way of showing that I was better. So that's just one specific example, but just the point is, really figure out why you're doing it for, because if it's a external validation or childhood event, the reasons could not be strong, healthy reasons. Having said that, I do realize that there are good reasons to do this. Maybe you just want to be smarter to make the world better or do more, or you just have a very healthy level of wanting to be smarter because you want to just improve your dating prospects in a very healthy way. So here are a few books I recommend. Again, a lot of people ask these questions like how it's asked, which is very vague, which makes me it's difficult to answer, because you can be smarter and wiser in different niches and areas. But this is how it's usually asked, so this is how I will address it. Now, what I recommend is usually getting smarter in areas that come up in conversation, because I'm assuming that you want to appear smarter. Now, if that is the case, and I never really do it this way, I kind of just pursue my interests, and they happen to come up in conversation because I just naturally come up with them. But if you want to do it this way, it's probably the best way, because if you choose a topic that's very niche, it will never come up, and it's not going to be useful in many ways unless you're doing that specific niche interest or topic, whether it's chess or video games, which case you're usually it's not going to come up often. So here are just a few books that I recommend that I think it's applicable to most people's lives just because they are topics that almost everyone has to deal with that are important to them. Kind of like the weather. The first one is top 5 regrets of the dying. And this is something that you can easily weave into conversations, and it really just shows that you are a well-versed person. Again, when I do this, I never really do it. I would say maybe it's like 10% to appear smarter, if not less. It's mainly just because of my interest in these books and because I want to be, I know how helpful they are. But I have found that this book, it's easy to weave into conversations, and a lot of people are just very curious as to what these are. And the book's kind of straightforward and self-explanatory. The author spent her time at a nursing home and saw 200 people pass. And most people, they regret the same things. So it's a great conversation starter, and it shows that you're wise enough to really consider something that most people, even though it's the most important thing, they don't really consider until late in their life when it's too late. Now, a second book that's it's kind of more dry and deep and long is called Man's Search for Meaning. It's basically about this guy. His name is Viktor Frankl, and he survived the Holocaust. And this guy pretty much survived when everyone else died, and it was really about his attitude and mentality that got him through. And it's really a great book on just understanding and learning your attitude towards life, because a lot of people have incredible lives, privileged lives. They're rich, but they're still like bitter and unhappy, whereas some people, their whole life is horrible, and yet they still manage to make something of it and find a purpose. So I think it's a great book for people who want to find purpose in life, who want to develop their attitude. And I think it's a central struggle that a lot of people go through, and it's a great book to just bring up. Another good book that I think is just useful is Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Again, it's basically a book on what matters most. Is it luck? Is it genius? Is it talent? Again, I have my own opinions on the book, and some parts I don't like, but I don't want to go there. The point is, it's a good conversational starter, and it just shows that you're well-read. Another one is Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. This is a book recommended by many successful people, including Bill Gates, and I think it's just a central theme around success, an area of personal development that I really love and I know really well. And to summarize the book, it's basically saying that a lot of psychological studies found that having a growth mindset, which they explain in the book, is basically believing that you can change your life and change your skill sets and improve, rather than a fixed mindset where you're kind of like resigning yourself to what you're given. It really improves your chances of success in life. Another book that may be helpful, again, I don't want this to overwhelm you, but just choose the one or two that you think would be useful, is probably The How of Happiness. This book, it really goes into the science of happiness, and I think it's probably one of the most central books that you can talk about, because happiness is why most people do what they do. It's not everything, but a lot of people chase happiness, and they chase the wrong things that they think will bring them to happiness, whether it's money or fame. And I talked to tons of people, religious people, non-religious people, and they all had their opinions. And then I went through dozens of really crappy books on the science of happiness until I found this gem, and it's really the A to Z comprehensive book on the science of happiness, and it really just outlines everything with all sorts of science to back up its points that pretty much show you what brings happiness, what doesn't, what only has like a marginal effect. And some of those things are contrary to popular opinion. A lot of people think that more money you have, the more it will bring you happiness, and that gives you very diminishing and temporary returns. And it does help, but not as much as you think. And there's many other things in the book. And of course, I think anyone would be curious about that, and they'd be impressed that you would know this stuff, because many people do what they do for happiness. They chase money, they buy clothes, etc., etc. Now, this is a topic, again, I just want to conclude with that. I think a lot of people will answer, and they'll give you these really weird books like The Art of Seduction, or really random ones like The Prince, or The Art of War, or The Dip by Seth Godin. And of course, go ahead and check those out. But I just think some of these are just like very esoteric and strange. And I wouldn't say that they help much. I would say bringing up The Art of Seduction would kind of turn off a lot of people, because they just think, oh, you're into manipulation. And so just be careful what other people say. I do think that there's certain books that can really help you as a person, such as Thinking Fast and Slow by Dan Kahneman, or Drive by Dan Pink, or Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. But it's tougher to bring them into conversation or show that you're smarter with them. So it kind of just remains hidden and locked away in your brain. Now, some of these are not as bad as I bring them out to be. So I do think if you're just a little bit effortful, you can weave them into conversation. So don't rule them out. But just keep those general principles in mind. And again, some of these books that you'll be recommended on the internet, like The Prince, it's just very tough because it talks about human behavior, politics, gaining power in government regimes. That's just very tough to bring into conversation. And contrary to what you see in movies, it's not something that the average person would care to know. In fact, if you bring it up, and I've tested this myself, it usually bores them and it turns them off. But again, I'm always an experimenter. So if you found different results, of course, show your evidence, and I'd be more than willing to change my opinions. But that's just what I've found. Again, stick to those like general principles. And of course, there's plenty of books and book lists out there that fall into these categories after you've listened or read the books that I've mentioned already. So hopefully that helped. And don't let these overwhelm you. Just pick the one that you can get started with. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast if you aren't, so that you know when new free episodes come out. And I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you for listening to Will's Personal Development Podcast. You can find more at willyoulaugh.com.